Hi, I'm Samuel Prather. Welcome to A Reason to Create. I know it's been a long time for those of you who have been waiting for a tutorial. If you're watching in the not too distant future, I hope that coronavirus is a memory long faded, but for those of us that are living through it right now, it is a really terrible thing that is taking the lives of many people's loved ones. So please take all the precautions that are being recommended by the CDC. Wash your hands, social distance, etc. But today I wanted to handle something that I've seen in the comments many times. I have several videos where I cover some basic ideas that I have about mixing and mastering, and some of them go very in depth, some of them are just a little bit more of an overview. But a lot of people have asked me for a video just to show how I would mix something from scratch. So what I'm going to do today is give my quick and dirty mix on a live performance that I did with Capital Bop back in February. It was a great performance, a lot of fun, but there were definitely some challenges in the way of recording it. So my man Jamie, who did all the audio, had a limited number of inputs, so certain things had to be kind of shared, and there's not great separation because the room isn't very big. Also, another challenge that's kind of thrown into the mix is, what do you do when you have a mix of something that you want to throw up on the web? You don't really have a budget or time to mix it the way that you would mix a record. What can you do quickly that would make things sound better without having to spend weeks and weeks mixing and mastering like you would an album? So what I'm going to do is just record my screen and let you see every decision that I make and hear every decision that I make, and hopefully you won't judge me too harshly, but the idea here is to get in here quick, get rid of most of the problems, not all of the problems, and make it sound as good as I can in, I guess, an hour or so, hopefully less. Probably start recording my screen. Here we are on my computer screen. As you can see, I've already imported all the files. I did this beforehand because all of these files are like an hour long. I didn't want to show that on camera, but it took my computer about 5 minutes for it to get everything analyzed and ready for me to work. All right, now, when I look at this, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the song that I want, because I think a huge mistake would be to think that I could just mix or master a whole set of music the same way. It doesn't work that way. By the way, give it up for... Okay, so that's the beginning of the song I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this song out with the razor tool. Like so. I'm going to select at least where I think the boundaries are and chop. I'm going to get rid of everything else because as of right now, this is as wide as I can get the view to be. I can zoom in, but this is as far as I can zoom out. And that's not really very helpful to me, having all the rest of this audio here. So even though it's brilliant, bye-bye. You like the man, telling you like the man, and I'm going to take everything all the way over to the side. Okay, so we have a few things that are cool and ready to go. If I just take a quick listen to what's happening mix-wise. Down, living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Woo! Okay, so there's obviously a lot of problems level-wise. Not that it's not a good recording, but it's just, you know, what it is. So I want to go ahead and get started with the first thing, which is cleaning this up. This is a live recording, so there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't want. I'm going to start with the kick drum. Thankfully, the files were already labeled. Okay, so we know that that kick pretty much disappeared in the main mix, so we want to bring that out some. The first thing that I'm going to do is go in here and use my default mono mix channel, which has an EQ, a denoiser, compressor, a saturation knob, already kind of built in. So I think I have a link for that in the description if you want to use this when you mix. I'm going to turn on our denoiser. And then I'm going to go through and sweep with my EQ to kind of get rid of any unsavory frequencies. I turn the Q up and the gain all the way up. And I'm just going to go don't like that frequency, so I'm going to cut it by 6 dB, and then I'm going to repeat that process here. I sweep. Not in love with that either, so I'm going to cut that. And I have a second EQ so that I can have more bands to sweep. All right, that's nasty. I'm gonna get rid of that. All right, I'm gonna take a look in the corner here and see how I'm doing gain-wise. The kick seems to be maxing out. Here you can see this yellow line was maxing out around -6 dB. Probably one of the reasons why we can't hear it. We'll bring that up in a second, but I just want to make sure we're not bringing up any garbage with it. Okay, so because this is my kick drum and it's kind of a groove-oriented tune, because it's a kick drum and it's a groove-oriented tune, I want to make sure that the kick is up front. So I'm going to set my compressor to be really, really slow so that it'll sound up front. So I set my attack as slow as it can go, and I set my threshold so that it's affecting the signal around 4 dB. And then I'm going to go here with the saturation. Too much. And I don't want to overdo it because this is for an organization that usually does a series about more straight ahead jazz recording, so I want to be a little more open than my studio records are. This also has the effect of taming the decibels, so even though this is much louder than it was, as you can hear, it's still hitting around -8 dB. It's like a magic trick. I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna use my low pass to get rid of some of the stuff on the top I don't want. And then I'm also gonna put an EQ notch in the low end, just to give it a little bit more beef in the bottom. I'm gonna give it 6 dB around 52 Hertz. And because I'm giving that boost there, I'm just gonna already go over to the bass, and I'm gonna take that same frequency out of the bass so that they can kind of blend together better. And then I don't have to remember to do it later. The last thing that I'm gonna do to the kick is I'm going to throw a gate on it. If I can find the gate. Duh. So I turn the gate on. And I'm changing the threshold. So this is the gate just completely smashing anything but the attack. So I'm going to back that down. Till it sounds a little bit more natural. There's going to be kick in some of the other microphones because of the bleed, so I'm not worried about this channel sounding as natural as I might be otherwise. Just a quick listen. This is what we have with the whole track now. Woo! Yuck. All right. But the kick is definitely coming through better. And now I think we can actually bring it up a little bit if I wanted to. Okay, now all of these tracks are mono, so mixing in mono is something I highly recommend, but all these tracks are in mono and I haven't panned anything yet, so no damage done so far by not using it. But what I can do is go up here to the mastering suite. I'm gonna bypass I'm gonna bypass everything else. Pull these stereo imagers down to mono and then turn them on. So in theory, now all I can hear is mono, even if I do pan things. Okay, so that was the kick that we just finished with. Let's take a listen to the bass. Okay, so very low signal. So I'm going to go through, do the same thing that I did for the kick. I'm going to use my default mono mix channel. All right. I like how that sounds for the most part. And once again, this is a quick mix. There are definitely some things that I probably would take more time on if I wasn't aiming for such a short mix on this. Okay, so we're back in business. I saved the file in a appropriate place, and now I'm going back to this bass and deciding on whether or not I want a bass amp or not. It is a little thin. And so I want to hear what it sounds like with a soft tube bass amp in it. I like it better already. And now I'm going to hear it with the kick drum just to see what I'm working with. I'm also going to roll a little bit off the top of this one as well. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way those sound. And I forgot to mention, this is a super quick and dirty mix, and I did not want to set up all of my speakers and everything. I wanted to pretend like I was in a hotel room somewhere, and I was just trying to mix something on the fly to put out for social media. So here I am mixing out of the speakers on my laptop. I know that's not a great decision from an audio mixer's standpoint, but it's real. So anyway. Next thing I want to deal with is this overhead. All the snare and hi-hat information is in one mic, so I don't have a lot to work with in the way of separation, but I do want to get rid of the kick from that mic, and as much as I can, just kind of get it under control and sitting right with the bass and the kick drum. So here we go. Okay, so that mic might as well just been a room mic. It has pretty much everything in it. And so I'm not going to mess with it very much because there's not an awful lot I can do. What I will do is do a high pass and get rid of everything maybe under 300 so that I'm, actually no, I don't want to go that high. Everything under 200 so it's not fighting with the kick. And then once I put the kick back in, you get oh, I'm tripping. That's the overhead. Duh. It's labeled. But the same thing still kind of applies. Let's hear this snare mic. So once again, I don't want the kick drum in there, but I don't want to take all the meat out of the snare, so I'm going to cut this one a little lower with the high pass. And I'm going to take off a little bit of the edge off of the top. Okay, so this one is peaking all by itself, and what I want to do here is just take my mono mix channel. I'm going to turn on the denoiser, try to get rid of some of that background stuff. Okay, and the snare also is something that I kind of want up front. So super fast attack. Sorry, super slow attack. Okay. Now, let's hear those four things together. Okay, so I just realized that overhead was actually used on the conga, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of throws a little wrench into things, but we'll figure that out in a second. Let's take a look at the keys. Goodness gracious. Don't need that much of it. Fair enough for right now. I'm not going to mess with it. Let's hear this conga again, where the conga is actually playing. Now the keys, if I go through, put my default mix channel, I'm going to leave everything else in here alone, except I'm going to compress this to be more in the back, so a faster attack. Cool. Now real quick, I'm going to just take a look at the trumpet solo. Great player, Brandon Woody on trumpet, but this is way too harsh for what we're doing. Now I don't want to gut him completely for the solo portion that he takes, so I'm going to make a new track. And this track I'm going to treat a little differently than the rest of it. So I'm going to put him here. Uh-oh. And just deal with these parts. The trumpet solo is going to be treated exactly the same way as the trumpet, but I'm going to instead compress it to the front. Okay, so there's another problem that we have, which is that Brandon was going on and off the mic. I know we're trying to keep a natural sound here, but I really have to do some things to tame this just so that it sounds like it was properly recorded. The way he swings away from the mic is probably a reflection of that we didn't have a monitor, so he couldn't hear how big a difference it made in his sound in the recording, but I'm gonna try to fix that by just bringing down some of those extra loud peaks. Some people would make this a job for a compressor. I rather, generally speaking, I like to do this manually. So actually his solo starts here. Take the snap off because it's irrelevant. This isn't part of the solo, so we're going to do it differently. All right. So all this is pretty hot. So I'm going to bring this down some. I'm going to bring it down a lot. Bring this down a lot too. Good Lord. And then specifically right here, he appears to really jump out super loud. And I'm going to bring that down even further. Save, save, save. So he was completely off the mic here. I'm going to try to recover some of this. Use that saturation to bring him up in the mix. And that's the end of his solo. All right, I think that takes care of the trumpet, at least so far. Got a general kind of EQ thing happening. That brings us to these vocals. Lord. Okay.
Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. You're black or
First thing I'm going to do is put on a denoiser.
brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun.
Now, because we low passed everything else, that should help this vocal stay on top. We have a background vocal. I'm going to low pass that a little bit, but not very much, so that it can be in the background but still function the same way. Okay, so we did some work on the lead vocal, got rid of some frequencies that we didn't like, and
now take it to the bridge, come on.
Obviously, there's still stuff there that we don't want in the lead vocal, but we've put it up front with the compressor. I'm going to take a look at this background vocal just to make sure we're okay.
Now, living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black and brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Telling you, got the man some different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Now take it to the bridge, come on. See, if you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living. See, if you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. Come on, Brandon.
All right, so everything seems to be cool in terms of an overall mix. What I'm going to do is go to this warm echo here, hit the edit, and I'm going to turn the ducking up almost to 100%. And that's going to give us a nice delay effect so we can have some space. I'm going to throw that on pretty much everything to different degrees, but definitely just dial it in. I'm not going to put it on the bass, and I'm not going to put it on the kick. And the keys already have their own effect on there, so I'm not going to do that either. So I'm going to dial it down. Let's see what we got. Now the reason I did that, what this ducking knob does is it makes it so that the effect only happens in the space where there isn't audio happening. So basically it waits until the trumpet finishes and then you hear the reverb trail, or the delay trail in this case. And it's a really cool way to kind of have an effect that's not muddying up the actual attack of something, but still gives a sense of space.
Black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun.
I'm going to take it way down on these congas because percussive stuff gives away delay in a way that's different. In fact, I'm going to drop it on the snare as well. The kick has none. I'm going to solo the kick just so I can hear what the reverb sounds like. That's already there, factory. Okay, so I just put a little bit more reverb on stuff that needs to be in the background and a little bit less on stuff that should be up front. Hopefully that works. Let's hear what it sounds like.
If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun.
Sounds pretty cool so far. I'm going to slap a compressor on the whole thing. Just to glue things together, it's going to be very light. I'm going to take a look at my meters again. Make sure we're not smacking too hard.
If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of fun.
And it's hitting too hard. I'm just going to pull everything down by 4 dB just so I have a little bit more space to work with. It's fine. I know.
If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under the trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown.
Just a little bit more from the bass through the saturation knob. Save. Okay, so because I'm in a rush, right? We don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this because we can't really afford to. What I'm going to do is go back up to, I'm going to bypass our stereo imager. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to use the stereo imager. I'm going to make everything a little bit wider. The high band a little wider and the bottom really wide. Like so. And then I'm going to start pulling some things out to the sides. So I'm going to leave my snare, the kick, and the bass kind of right up the middle. And it's a good thing that they work well together because of notching EQs and stuff. But as far as the trumpet was on the left side of the stage, so I'm going to pull him over there. I'm going to leave the trumpet solo in the center of the stage. The conga, I'm going to pull a little bit off to the left. Shakira's vocal, I'm going to pull a little off to the right. And the snare, I'm going to pull over to the right as well. Hopefully that won't make anything peak. Let's see. And the keys, I'm going to pull off.
Brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. Now take it to the bridge, come on. Now,
All right, so I put the attack on the keys in a way that keeps it from speaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this track. I'm going to duplicate that track. And I'm going to separate the solo so that it comes out a little brighter. So that means I have to mute everything else. So M for mute. And then I'm going to mute the solo on the line above it so that it's not too much. Now, in this copy, I'm going to put the keys dead center. And I'm also going to go and add push the attack back so it'll come through, and a little bit of saturation.
I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk.
So pretty much here, it gets so blown out and distorted that it's very difficult to use, but I'm still going to pull that down so that I can have a better balance.
But for a musician, the best way to feel better is to just express yourself. So anyway, this tune is about that person. But for a musician, the best way to feel better is to just express yourself. So anyway, this tune is about that person. By the way, give it up for my man Charles on drums, all the way from Baltimore. Give it up for Charles Wilson. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk.
The last thing that I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to bring up the high shelf a smidge, and I'm going to bring the bottom up just a little bit in the lower frequencies. These are all subjective judgments.
Hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. If you're black or brown, try to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk.
Now, the one thing that I forgot to mention was that I do have still pretty decent audio from the camera itself when we played this gig. And I might mix a little bit of that into what I have so I can get a little bit more raw, live sounding mix later on. This is what it sounds like. And this is what it sounds like with the track in there.
You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. You're black or brown, trying to hold it down. Living under Trump, I'm telling you, life demands a different kind of funk. Now take it to the bridge, come on.
So, as you can see, it does add back a little bit of that live element to it, and I probably will include that in the final mix. which I hope you'll check out when Capital Bop releases it. I also already have another track that I mixed in a similar fashion. That's a medley of a couple of soul standards that you can check out that I released a couple days ago. So check that out as well. So that was about an hour. That's what I could get done on this one song in an hour. Hopefully that gives you an idea of my process. I take a little bit longer. Actually, I take a lot longer if I'm mixing a song for a record to be mastered, like for a CD. But when I'm doing something like this that's going to be primarily heard on phones and laptops, I think this is actually a pretty good mix for the amount of time that I spent on it. Are there other things that I can do and probably would do if I had more time? Sure, but you can't spend 2 weeks mixing everything, especially at the pace that we're consuming media in our current culture. What would you have done differently if you had an hour and you had these tracks? What kind of things would you have done to the mix? What would you have changed? Would you have put a de-esser on the vocals, for example, or would you have maybe put some kind of fancy plugin that does something that I'm completely unaware of is even possible on there? Let me know down in the comments. And if you've hung in there this long, then I'm assuming that you're probably subscribed, but if you're not and you like what I talked about today, then please do hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when I come out with new content. I hope you learned something that will be of use to you in your own projects. I'm Samuel Prather. I hope I gave you a reason to create.